Swing and a drive.
Welcome to Red, White, and Blue Jays, the podcast home of Blue Jays Fans UK, a group connecting Blue Jays fans around the UK and beyond, and telling their story. And now, here's the host of Red, White, and Blue Jays, Steve Hunter.
Hi, everyone. So good of you to join us again tonight. Thank you so much for finding us. I'm delighted that we have made it all the way to episode 2. We navigated our way through the first episode with Meg, and she was excellent. So I hope you enjoyed our first dip into the podcast world. I'm excited again tonight that we've got somebody on that I've known for quite a long time, but we were just reflecting before we press record. This is obviously the first time that we've actually spoken together, but we've had lots of conversations. So I'm really thrilled, and a very warm welcome to the Red, White and Blue Jays podcast to Gary Stanley. Gary, great to have you.
Great to be here. How are you, Steve?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm really excited about this. I know you've got a bumper load of stories that you're gonna bring to us tonight. So I'm really excited. I mean, I'm loving just catching up with so many people in terms of the Blue Jays fans UK world, whether it be people from Twitter, whether it be people on Facebook, where we've got to know each other a little bit. So yeah, I'm thrilled to have you along. So thanks for spending the time to come and talk to us.
No problem at all.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Gary. What does life look like for you?
Life looks like for me is very, very busy. First of all, I'm 40.
You're a youngster. You're a youngster.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. My baseball career is over. There's no chance. Maybe I'll go play in Japan. Maybe, I'm not sure. I live with my wife, my 2 cats. I was born in Swindon. I moved to Canada just outside of Toronto in 1988. Moved back to the UK in 2002.
Okay.
Which obviously where my Blue Jays fandom came from when I lived there.
Yep.
And I currently work as facility manager at Swindon Town Football Club Community Foundation. So every day is different. Every day is absolutely chaotic. It's just, you don't know what each day is going to bring you, if I'm being honest. Every day is different.
So how long have you worked at Swindon Town then for?
I've been there since March last year. So I actually started just as lockdown kicked in last year. So bit of a bad time to go in, because obviously the football season has been, called off and everything due to COVID. But obviously it does come with perks, if you like to call them perks. We got relegated last year, but we ended up going into the games as ball boys to support the club.
Wow.
I actually work for the charitable part of the club, so we get out to the community.
That's amazing.
So meeting out with different fans. Our organisation took the League 2 Champions Trophy because we actually won the league in 2020. So we did that to some of our sort of older supporters that perhaps haven't had any connection to the football club. So we also delivered over 100 hampers to some of our elderly supporters as well just before Christmas. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, just mental, to be honest.
I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, what sort of support does Swindon get in terms of crowd attendance? Where would they be pitching?
At the moment, we're second in League 2 in attendance behind Bradford City. We're getting roughly 8,500 fans, which is good for League 2.
That's very good.
You see some of the teams further down, like your Forest Green Rovers, your Suttons and everything, getting around 2,000.
Yeah.
No disrespect to them. Swindon has played in the Premier League way back in 1993, relegated after one season. So if you blinked, you probably missed it.
Yeah.
However, I do think you can look in the history books and look for the most goals conceded in a Premier League season, and I think we're still there. Although I think so.
That's a stat.
We were there.
That's an amazing.
Although I do think the Derby might have passed us a few years ago, but
okay.
Yeah.
I have some vague memories of Swindon Town over the years. So I'm based down in Bournemouth. So I think in terms of sort of the Bournemouth storyline is probably not that dissimilar in some ways to Swindon's, and the fact that the club almost went into administration and then obviously came out of the ashes and sort of worked his way all the way up to the Premier League. And I have a feeling I've seen Swindon play actually. I can't remember whether it must have been down at Dean Court as it was then. But I sort of, in my memory, I remember the Lou Macari story, I think, from many years ago. And was that about around the Premier League days?
Just before then, so it was mid 80s. You know, we had Ozzy Ardiles coming after.
That's it.
And we made it to what, you know, is now known as the Premier League. Beat Sunderland 1-0 in 1990 at Wembley.
Right.
The Football League decided to make an example of us, relegate us 2 divisions for financial irregularities.
Yeah.
And then, we got back there in 1993. But, you know, I certainly remember playing Bournemouth when we had Paolo Di Canio as manager. We were sort of taunting Bournemouth fans, saying they never signed Matt Ritchie. Yeah. And then we were near the abyss. And I think you got Matt Ritchie for pennies. So
yeah.
Bournemouth, and he obviously has gone on to big things at Newcastle. So
exactly. Yeah. It's a small old world, isn't it? It's a small old world. And has it always been a dream of yours to work for the club? Is that something that you'd have sort of set out a few years back and thought, I'd love to be able to do that, to support my hometown team?
I think it's one of those things where, I mean, football's very difficult to get into, if I'm being honest. It's probably a bit like baseball. You know, as a fan, you know, there's no greater joy than, you know, wearing your club's badge every day, you know.
Sure.
Going into it, I was a bit concerned, you know, would I get to a position where I was working so much there that I would hate it?
Yep.
But if anything, you know, it doesn't feel like work, if I'm being honest. You know, I work with, you know, the people I work with are absolutely fantastic. Management are great. People over at the club itself are absolutely fantastic, you know, very forthcoming. But sometimes, obviously, you need to learn where to draw the line between fandom and obviously work, you know. So, like, give an example, last year we had a manager, John Sheridan, absolutely rubbish manager, but, you know, nice enough person to me personally. I know he's had some issues with some of the other guys around, but, you know, he was fine with me, you know, and then he ended up losing his job. And you think, you know, as a fan, you think, get him out, you know, but then when you meet the individual people, you think, well, actually, really nice guys. So it's drawing that line between fandom and working, you know, and having to differentiate between the two.
Yeah. Well done to you for sticking with your team through thick and thin. That's a great story. So we're not here actually as a football podcast, but it's great to get your background and just to hear a bit of your story. So tell me, how did you end up then moving to Toronto? What took you across to Canada?
So we moved there in 1988. I was told 2 different stories. I'm not quite sure which one's right, but so, you know, the long story short, my dad applied for a job in Milton, which is outside of Toronto. It's about maybe 20 miles. Outside of Toronto. I don't believe my dad thought he would actually get the job. Anyway, he got offered the job and he took it. We moved over there as kids. So I was 7 years old when I moved over there.
Wow.
You know, so so most of my schooling there, you know, so you know, that was quite interesting. So I learned how to play baseball, you know, hockey or ice hockey. Known over here was a huge thing over there, obviously.
Of course.
Never really got involved with the Leafs, thankfully. You know, so we don't have to worry about, you know, heartbroken every year.
Heartache every year.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's kind of a running joke, you know, to some of us when we live in there. They make me laugh, you know, because they're just absolutely rubbish.
Yeah.
But, you know, so we lived on the back of a park, you know, and we ended up playing, we saw some kids playing baseball. Yeah. You know, a bit like rounders. Thought, oh, what's that all about? You know, we just saw it on the TV, and then eventually, you know, because the guys were playing in the back, we thought, oh, let's try and emulate what's on TV. Of course, we got nowhere near doing that, because otherwise I wouldn't be sat here, you know, in a rented house in Swindon. But, you know, yeah, so we got involved just basically through school, through friends in a park, living on the back of a park. And obviously, Blue Jays being a hometown team, always believe in supporting your hometown team. Doesn't matter what sport. It's kind of how I got involved with it, really. That's
amazing. So, so you should, no, trying to ask too many questions at once. So, is your dad sporty, or is your family sporty? So going into it, so I'm just thinking in terms of going into a new nation where you're being exposed to sports that you have perhaps heard of but have never seen? Were they sort of keen to get you involved in local sport, local baseball teams, or was it something you just had a passion for that you wanted to go and find out about it?
I think we just learned through the school, to be honest. I mean, my dad played cricket in the UK,
Right.
but his sort of cricket days were over. I think he broke his ankle
Yeah.
before we moved to Canada. He was still more of a football person, to be honest. He got me involved with Swindon Town from a young age. So he's the one to blame for my years of misery. My mum, wasn't really into sports, if I'm being honest. But she's very much into baseball. So it was kind of, something me and my mum got into, my brother, and then obviously through the school as well, learning first of all through T-ball at a young age.
Yeah.
Which is a bit bizarre, hitting the ball off a tee there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't quite understand the difference between baseball and softball, apart from the fact that softball was probably about the size of a watermelon.
Yeah, it's like
no matter how hard you hit it, it didn't seem to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how did they do this on TV? Obviously, when I got older, I realised the ball was small and it was thrown a bit faster. So, when I say thrown a bit faster, thrown in general. So, yeah, it's very, very, very different.
Amazing. So, you arrive in Canada, you start playing a bit of baseball at school. How old were you when you went to your first Jays game then?
Oh, I went to my first Blue Jays game, I think, in 1991.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's a good time. Oh, what a great time to start watching.
Well, it's just after the All-Star game, because we had the All-Star game so rolling back a bit, kind of got involved because we used to drive into downtown Toronto and we saw this big structure being built at the bottom of the CN Tower.
Yeah.
And we kept wondering what's this building going up, because obviously we're young and naive, didn't have a clue what was going on. And we saw what was then known as the Sky Dome being built.
Yeah.
Of course, when the Sky Dome was built, it was just an absolute marvel. Everyone was just like in awe of it. For about 3 years, and then everyone wanted to get rid of it ever since.
No, we love the Sky Dome.
Oh, I absolutely love it. You compare that to anything in the UK.
Absolutely.
Anything. So, the fascination kind of came from that. Seeing that stadium being built, and then we ended up going to a game. We were watching on the TV. Of course, tickets at the time very hard to come by.
Sure.
So we were a bit surprised, because we used to get crowds about 4.5 million back in the day, which is kind of unheard of at the moment.
Yeah.
It was near impossible. 50,000 every night. Didn't matter what the time was. My first seats were on the first baseline. I remember this, and the 500 level.
Right.
Of course, we're more amazed about how high it was. Couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
But it was just the whole being there kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, as years went by, we managed to get closer as we got worse. So.
But if your first game was in 91, you obviously had following 2 years of amazing memories. I mean, did you get to many games in that sort of 92, 93 era?
Well, they used to post out a ticket form. So there used to be like a mail shot that used to go out, and you used to apply for tickets, and then if you're lucky, you got them. They weren't all that expensive from memory. I think they're only about $19 a ticket back then. But we did end up getting a couple of games in 92. And obviously watching the playoffs. We had Robbie Alomar in Oakland. Hitting that home run in the afternoon, and then staying up all night to watch the World Series games.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Game 6. I think my biggest memory probably back then, because everyone was hardcore Blue Jay fans. At school and everything. I mean, it's amazing. It's like everyone supporting the same, like almost supporting the England football team here. I mean, it truly is like Canada's team. Yeah. So we, when the whole Winfield Wants Noise, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, came out in 92. You wanted to sort of up the volume a bit in the Sky Dome there, because the Sky Dome was a bit quiet, if I'm being honest. I think the problem in Canada, people may be a bit too polite, back then. Yeah. You'd even get rounds of applause for like good plays from the other team sometimes. What are you doing? I wouldn't be clapping the other team.
There speaks a football supporter right there.
Yeah, probably is. Yeah. So what are you doing? But yes, we had obviously the that game, where we had Winfield Wanting Noise, and then we had the World Series there, hoping to win it on home soil. Obviously, Game 5 didn't quite go as planned. And obviously, I remember the triple play with Kelly Gruber there, which was never called. The umpire apologised later. Yeah. And obviously the first World Series win, I was up with my mum. I was falling asleep because I remember she was trying to keep me up.
Yeah.
Quite young, and obviously Winfield hitting the ball down the left field line there. I thought this might actually happen, and I just remember that the cone heads for David Cone as well.
Yeah,
92 was a big thing, and obviously that call, the famous call about Nixon's on it.
Yep, that's it.
And Timlin's on it. But the first and everything, and it still gives me chills even watching it now. Because I go back and it reminds me of my childhood. Then obviously the following year, we won the World Series again, and it was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I remember my mum and dad were upstairs watching the game, and I was downstairs with my brother. Because obviously we want the kids out of the way so we could play with like our little wrestling figures and things at the same time, kind of watching the game. But mine sort of wanders. And obviously Joe Carter hit a home run, and I just ran upstairs. Oh my God, Carter's just hit a home run.
Yeah.
Not actually realizing that home run won the World Series, won the game.
Yeah, it was the whole thing. Yeah.
I was basically getting told off for making too much noise because we lived in a townhouse, so the neighbours could hear and everything. So
they'd have been celebrating as well. They'd have been fine. They'd have been well on board, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. But yeah, it's just those 2-3 years.
Oh,
it's incredible.
Extraordinary. I mean, I think so you predate me in terms of my visit to Canada. So the first time I went over was 94. So I was the other side of the World Series, but I remember, like you, going into the Sky Dome, and even then it was in August the 8th, 1994. I've still got it date in my head, and stadium was still rocking, obviously on the back of two series wins, but it was just before. I remember the players' strike that
just
happened.
Before the strike, I was going to say, I think that was the 12th of August that happened.
It did. I was 4 days away from never supporting the Blue Jays. I mean, that's how close it was. I just, as you just talk about some of those memories, and of course everybody's seen the clips and the touch 'em all Joe moments and so on. In fact, we've just celebrated, haven't we? It's just gone through just recently, lots of anniversaries in terms of both World Series, obviously this time of year going through, but fantastic memories.
Yeah, well, it's not only the World Series. I mean, you're looking back at your, the wild card playoff, in 2016.
Yeah.
Bautista bat flip, which I actually have a poster above my head here. Actually, a picture above my
2015.
Head 2015 there.
Yeah.
So there's those memories that, of course, they're all cropping up at the same time, and it's just
exactly.
Even going back to last year, to be honest, getting to the playoffs last season, even though it was a shortened season.
Yeah.
Again, it's the thing that sort of cropped up.
Yeah.
Recently, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so just tail off our conversation about your time out in Toronto. So you're out there 12 years. You came back in 2002. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else, specific memories that you had sort of post World Series wins in those sort of latter years. As you were growing older, did that make any difference in terms of your love for the team? Did you go with your mates a bit more as you were perhaps getting into your teen years and so on?
My fandom actually increased, to be honest. So I ended up going to games almost every Friday with my mum.
Right.
So, we had the obviously strike short season. We had 1995, and I remember at the time everyone was thinking, we're going to roll it back, as I say, because we still had a lot of the players from the World Series teams. There was no reason why, we couldn't be successful. I think Paul Molitor was still there.
Yeah.
I think LaRue was still there as well. A lot of the players that were, around for those teams, were still there. And for whatever reason, I remember we signed David Cone, and I'm thinking, again, as a free agent, and we ended up trading, I think, to Kansas City from memory.
Yep.
He went. Actually, I don't know if he went to Kansas City. Did he go to Kansas City? I know he ended up with New York eventually. I think he might have went to Kansas City, then signed New York.
Yeah.
But I just remember getting him back in and thinking, this is going to be fantastic. We basically got the same team back, but of course, they hadn't played for so long, because the Blue Jays were one of the only teams. I remember during the strike shortened season, they were going to bring in replacement players. But because of the Canadian, I think, working laws or something, the Blue Jays weren't allowed to play in Toronto with replacement players. So they were going to play their home games, ironically, in Dunedin.
That sounds very familiar for some reason.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. So, the Blue Jays would be the only team not to play in a stadium, but with these replacement players. And then we ended up going down to spring training in Dunedin.
Yeah.
For about 2 or 3 years on the trot, and we actually ended up meeting some of the players.
Lovely.
We had a pitcher back in the day called Tim Crabtree, reliever. Yep. He was a bit of a hero when he went to Texas. He was traded for Kevin Brown in 1998. Sorry, after the 98 season during spring training. I think he ended up being a bit of a hero in the playoffs for them.
Yeah.
My mum was quite close to Sean Green, who obviously was a really good player. And it's just fun going to games, and meeting players down in down in Dunedin, which is quite interesting. I mean, I would suggest to any Blue Jay fan, if you ever want to go to Florida, do your Disney and things with the kids, make sure you get down to Dunedin, but make sure, more importantly, don't just get to the games, go to the minor league complex. You're literally right up against the fence with the players. You can talk to them, they'll all sign your stuff. It's you get to meet them on a personal level, which is absolutely fantastic, as opposed to sort of game day. They're in the zone. You can get like broken bats and things. I remember having an Otis Nixon broken bat training session, ironically, and he was the one who bunted, against the World Series. So 97. But to say, I've got a whole program signed pretty much by the whole 1998 team.
Wow.
Spring training program. You got some like Terry Bevington. A lot of people. He was a White Sox manager way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
He ended up working for the Syracuse Sky Chiefs at the time, and he was one of the managers and coaches down there. I was surprised to see him because I wasn't aware. My knowledge didn't go that far down in the minor leagues that he was still here.
Sure.
So yeah, I'd say anyone who goes to Florida, they want to make sure they head over to Dunedin, make sure they get into the minor league complex, which is about 1,000 times better than what I would have remembered now, obviously.
Well, they've just redeveloped it, haven't they, in the last year or so?
Yeah, so again, I got a picture of like signed by Roger Clemens, made out to myself. I got a picture signed by Sean Green and Jose Canseco, both in Blue Jays uniforms, which my mum took.
Yeah.
I have a ball signed pretty much by the whole 98 team.
That's amazing.
Including like Jim Fregosi, who's obviously passed on sadly. Roy Halladay when he was young. Speaking of Roy, I went to his. So I remember he came up and he done quite well. Then he was absolutely rubbish, and he was sent back down, I think, to Single A.
Yep.
In '98.
Single A.
With Mel, that's it. Yeah. With Mel Queen, he was sent back to Dunedin.
Right.
Worked his way back up. Went to a game in '98. I think the back end of the season. I think it was against the Detroit Tigers from memory, and I thought, oh my God, we were heading into the ninth inning, and it was actually a no-hitter. And unfortunately, I think he gave up a home run to, concede the no-hitter. But I was actually at that game. I think it was the last home game of the season that year as well. So,
right.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many different...
so many memories. You could just go on all evening, I'm sure, with
I could,
lots. So have you managed to get back much since you left in 2002? Have you gone back for return games at all? Did you get out in the sort of 2015-16 seasons at all?
Unfortunately, I didn't know, which is a shame. I did get out to a couple of games. Every time I go back to Canada, I do try and go when there's a game on.
Yeah.
Ironically, I just came back from Canada 2 weeks ago, my wife, and we applied for tickets to the playoff games. Okay. Go on there.
Yeah.
I'd never, even though I lived in Canada, I never got to go to a Blue Jay playoff game. So me and my wife applied for tickets. We got the tickets. We paid for them. So of course, the game was cancelled. It never happened, unfortunately. Which is another annoyance of mine, being in the American League East. I mean, a team that wins 91 games should be in the playoffs. I'm sorry. There's no. It's absolutely scandalous that
They did have an opportunity, didn't they? I'm trying to think when it was. It wasn't that long ago, where I think there was some discussion about rejigging the teams around a bit, and I think they had the opportunity to consider going into the Central Division, which I think would have purely on getting wins and getting through as division winners would have been a wise choice, but I think sort of a lot of thinking is obviously the AL East is the league to be in, but you have to sacrifice the fact that you're up against four very good sides, particularly as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's a bit of a strange one because a lot of people say, "Oh, let's get to the playoffs every year," but I genuinely think by staying in the American League East and competing there, you stand yourself actually in a better stead in the playoffs. you know,
Sure.
because you're constantly playing good teams.
Yeah.
If you're winning every season, you know, a bit like Cleveland at the moment, or Minnesota, you know, and you don't really have much competition,
Mm.
you know, by the time you get to the playoffs, you know, then you have your competition, you know, and you're probably a step behind the other teams. You know, and to be honest, you want to test, I'd imagine as a player, you want to test yourself against the best opposition.
Yeah.
You know, I know certainly with football, you know, if you're winning every week, you don't learn anything. You know,
Yeah.
so Baltimore must be learning loads at the moment because they never win. Uh, but you know, all joking aside and everything, it's you know, part of the pull I think for the Blue Jays is certainly being in that division.
Sure.
You know, against those big powerhouses.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And Tampa.
Yeah. yeah. Tampa.
Or Montreal. Or
have you been to Tropicana Field? Have you been down to the Trop? When you're in...
I haven't. No.
No, you haven't had that joy.
I will say I'm sat in my living room at the moment by myself speaking to you, and I think the atmosphere is probably about the same. So I can kind of say I've been there. In fact, the lighting's about the same as well.
Yeah,
so.
it probably is. It's quite a place, isn't it? Not the prettiest of ballparks, certainly.
Definitely
but,
not.
I mean, amazing stories, Gary. I mean, just fascinating hearing, and it's what I love about this sort of conversation is hearing, you know, the moments that mean something to you as a person, the memories as a young boy growing up in that, in sort of throwing distance of the dome, just certain sort of nuances and things, you know, as you've reflected. I mean, it's just, that's what I love about connecting with fans and talking to people like you. So thank you so much for just sharing a little bit of your story. So let's just sort of fast forward a little bit to last year. So the 2021 season. How do you view it? Do you view it as a disappointment, or do you view it as a success? Where do you lie with it?
It can't be anything but a success. Now, I think if we look back, we need to look back further to 2019 where we were. You know, because a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you know, we shouldn't, you know, we should have made the playoffs and everything." And we, you know, we should have done, you know, by rights. But at the end of the day, you know, the table doesn't lie. So. Results are what they are, but I think you need to look back to 2019 where we were, and then you look to last season where it was only a sample size. You know, I know that buzzword gets thrown around a lot in the baseball world, just a sample size. But there's only 60 games last season. You know, so if you go on a tear where you get say 15 games and you're good, you know, you're there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
You know, so for me this season, you know, winning 91 games on the back of a season where we had no home, and we moved twice. You know, obviously we were in Dunedin, then moved to Buffalo, and then back to Toronto. You know, and a lot of these young players are finally now, like, you look at your Vlads and everything. You know, the way he's turned himself around. You know, you looked at him, you think, is he another sort of Cecil Fielder or Prince Fielder? You know, he's going to have weight issues throughout his career, and he's absolutely turned around and basically told all the naysayers, you know, no, this is me. So I think if you're looking at it from 2019 when the Jays were last in Toronto, it sounds a bit harsh, but I don't really count last season. You know,
Sure.
Yeah, we made the playoffs and everything else, but
yeah,
again, you know, if you get to the playoffs last season, you know, you only really need to win probably half your games, because obviously it's expanded. It wasn't a true reflection about how the team. I mean, all you need to do is look at Marcus Semien. Last season, you know, you look at how he played last year, which is why he never got the huge contract. You know, so that 60 games, you know, there was another, you know, 62 games to play, and he never had a chance to, you know, play to his full potential. So I think it's a bit skewed last year. So coming out this year and winning 91 games, just being outside the playoffs until the ninth inning, you know, with Boston and the Nationals there, it can only be a success, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's been so many players that have had standout years this year. Just, you know, you'll see that behind me, the photo of Vladdy, Semien, Teoscar, and Bo. You know, just reflecting on their sort of four players getting 100 RBIs or more across the season. Obviously, Vladdy's had just a sensational year. Semien highest home run scorer for a second baseman, which is quite ironic, really, isn't it? Because he wanted to play shortstop, and he's got the record for second baseman. But yeah, just so many things I think that we can come out of. And what I love about the situation for the Jays this year is that they, going into next season, you haven't got to do too much. Obviously, there's the big debate about Marcus Semien and Robbie Ray, what's going to happen with them because of their contract situation. But the rest of the team actually generally will all more or less be back again. And so that's really good position for the Jays front office to be in, not having to negotiate all that. Where do you stand on the Semien Ray debate? Who would you like back? Both of them? One of them? If you have to have one, which one would you favour?
So I think realistically, we're not going to sign both of them.
Yep.
So to be honest, we need pitching. So for me, it's Robbie Ray.
Yeah.
Semien wants to play shortstop. And I think he'll head back to the West. If I'm being honest, I'd love to see him stay, and I think they'll obviously make a push. But again, as you're saying about contract situation, we've also got Steve Matz as well. So where does his contract lie? I mean, he didn't have a bad season either. So if you take Ray and Matz out, you're losing a whole bunch of wins. And in terms of next season, I think we also need to be a bit realistic. I mean, we're just outside the playoffs this year, and I know that Shapiro and Atkins said, we want to improve next year. But I think we also need to sort of just step back a minute and look at the bigger picture. The Blue Jays for 2/3 of the season were playing in minor league ballparks with smaller dimensions and things. So the statistics that the players put up this year will probably level off a bit next year. I think we need to be realistic in terms of our expectations. Is Semien going to, hit as many home runs next year? He's not going to be playing in minor league ballparks as well. The same with Vladdy. The statistics, their stats aren't going to be as high as they are this year. So again, that's something else you need to look into as well. So you need better pitching with Rogers Centre being a hitter-friendly ballpark. You can't be bringing in your Tyler Chatwoods and things to just sort of piece together games. So I think you really need to look at your pitching side. Because you're not going to get the offensive output as you had last year. For the home games, because again, we had a bit of an advantage playing those smaller ballparks.
Yeah, well, I think yes and no, because I've sort of pondered the whole sort of should they have got through to the postseason, and they didn't. Why didn't they? And I think while there was some advantages in terms of hitting in minor league parks, the fact that they had to play such a large chunk of the season effectively out of a suitcase, I think fair credit to them, because not many teams would have been able to do what they've done. So it swings and roundabouts. We could argue or discuss until the proverbial cows come home about whether they should or shouldn't have got further. I mean, I think on that last day, obviously, it was so exciting, wasn't it, going into the game 162 and everything still to play for. 4 teams all in with a shout. It was just like final day in the football season. So lots of excitement, but that initial disappointment that they did everything they had to do. Obviously beat the Orioles handsomely, but that pesky old Red Sox and them getting through was a real low point. But I think, like you, I've sort of now the dust has settled a little bit, and I'm a bit more reflective. Actually, I'm really positive for next year. So let's keep our fingers crossed that next year is the year, and that's I think that's what Shapiro has been saying for a long time now, that 2022 is the one that they're building for. So let's really hope that happens.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. Got a couple of other questions I was just going to throw your way. So just tell me, how did you connect into the UK Blue Jays scene? How did you find us? Can you remember that story at all?
Not really, to be honest. I think I didn't realise there was too many Blue Jay fans in the UK, to be honest. Now, ironically, where I work now, there's another hardcore Blue Jay fan, which is just ridiculous. Next door at the athletics track, there's also a guy that always wears Blue Jay hoodie, so I went and spoke to him, and he wears a hat as well. So there's 3 of us in the vicinity now, in Swindon at least.
Excellent.
So it's a bit of a strange one. I think initially I might have seen a referral, I think from Sandy on the Canadians in the UK Facebook group.
Okay.
So I think that was way back when.
Yeah.
And I joined from there, and I joined the fantasy baseball, but I just don't have the time to do the fantasy baseball anymore, to be honest, with my work schedule. But
Yeah.
so I think that's how I kind of got involved as well.
Yeah.
I managed to get my wife into being a Blue Jay fan, which is great.
Wonderful.
I mean, I have a great story about her.
Go on, then.
So middle of the night, we're both asleep. So during the playoff games, I would set my alarm to wake up and watch the games. So there's the wild card game against the Orioles, where Edwin hit the game-winning home run.
Yeah, remember it.
So I was in bed. I didn't want to make any noise. Go like, yes. So I'd done like a fist pump, like kind of like, and I didn't realize that my wife was right behind me, and I elbowed her in the eye.
Oh,
Woke her up.
yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, and she's just like, what happened? And then, of course, I had to just tell her. But ever since then, yeah.
And she still wants to be a Jays fan after all of that. Yeah, that's it. So welcome to the club, love. But,
yeah, she is. But then she kind of says to me, I'm not going to get elbowed in the face, am I? So just game on, she sits, thankfully brought social distancing in now. So, she's well aware of 2 meters, especially when the Blue Jays are on. So, yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one.
That's brilliant. Well, well done to her. What's your favourite bit of merch that you've got? Well, I mean, you've talked about a lot of stuff that you've got, obviously signed, and you've got a collection that would put green eyes into most Jays fans here. What's the bit that you obviously got your backflip photo on your wall there, but what's the bit that you love?
To be honest, it's going to sound really silly and probably a bit soppy. There's a couple things. So I have quite an extensive Blue Jays jersey collection.
Right.
So I've got a couple Roy Halladay jerseys there, which obviously they're impossible to get now.
Yep.
I've also got this season's the away Blue Jays jersey.
Yeah.
So
the light blue.
My wife
Baby
ordered it for me for my 40th birthday. I was trying to find it. So we went on our honeymoon to Las Vegas early in the year, and I was trying to get the baby blue jersey. Couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Eventually found it on Fanatics here about 3 months after. But you couldn't find the replica of the away jersey. And so my wife actually wrote to the Blue Jays asking, if she can get one and if they sent it to the UK, and they did. So I've always liked the away jerseys. I've always preferred the away ones to the home ones. And that comes from growing up. My mum used to get the home jersey. I used to always get the away jersey.
Yeah.
So again, that's something that's always carried with me. And, whilst I have a big mouth, I seem to drop food all down me as well. So great, a bit easier to disguise it. And funny enough, actually going back to my wife, one of the other, it's not really merchandise, but it means a lot to me. So I have a letter. So we got married in 2019. My wife wrote to the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays sent me a letter congratulating us on our wedding and saying, like you've really hit the ball out of the yard for this one, kind of things like that. So
yeah, lovely.
To me, merchandise and signed things, they're things that mean something to me.
Sure.
And obviously this jersey means a lot to me because, my wife knows how much I wanted it, and it's something that she's got me.
Yeah.
And she's gone out of her way, despite not being, a hardcore baseball fan.
Yeah.
To do it, to make me happy. And again,
that's a great story.
It isn't merchandise, but it's just something that means a lot to me, and it just shows what a caring club the Blue Jays are as well. So.
Yeah, totally. I love those sort of stories because that's what makes life tick, isn't it? Is people in relationship with each other and going the extra mile to show their love. And I think that's a brilliant story, Gary. That's super, and big gold star to your wife as well. So you can
absolutely
pass that on. Funnily enough, my wife did something very similar for my big 50th, which I had last year. So I've also got a letter from the Jays, but congratulating me on my 50 years. Right. Okay. So we're sort of coming towards the end. Thank you so much for just giving us a bit of time and just sharing some of your stories.
I could go on forever, I'll tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
5 or 6 podcasts, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, we can always come back for a second edition. Definitely. So what I'm going to do just to sort of close us out is just going to throw a few questions at you, just 10 questions. just what comes off the top of your head. First thing. So okay, so you don't have to think about it. It's not too serious. So okay, so your favourite player from 2021, who impressed you the most?
See, again, there's so many. To be honest, I would probably say Vladdy, just for the work ethic.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I wouldn't agree with that. Your favourite player of all time?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I'm probably going to say Dave Steve.
Okay.
So a lot of the Blue Jay fans in the UK probably don't know who Dave Steve is, but probably the best pitcher the Blue Jays have ever had. Some will argue Roy Halladay. I would say Dave Steve by miles. If you look back in the late 80s, I mean, he was untouchable. How he never got more recognition for what he did for the Blue Jays, up until 92. He's injured in 92 in his career. Sort of went, he ended up with the White Sox and he was released. It's an absolute shame, to be honest.
Yeah.
And for a lot of guys who don't know, he actually did return to the Blue Jays in 1998. So, ironically, I was down in Florida at the time. I didn't see him and say, "Hey, Dave, want to go have a game?" But he was a minor league instructor for the Blue Jays that season, and he was throwing heat. And he ended up coming back to the Blue Jays that season. So a lot of people forgot about that. But no, I'd certainly say Dave Steve was probably the best all-time pitcher.
Yeah, brilliant.
Player, sorry.
Yeah, player. Yeah, no, that's great. Your favourite non-Blue Jays player? Do you have one? I mean, that's like, who's the arch rivals for Swindon Town? Who's your nemesis club?
Oh, Oxford, but we don't worry about them. They're kind of irrelevant.
Oh yeah, they're nowhere now.
That's
offended every Blue Jays fan who comes from Oxford, by the way. We've just lost them.
That's all right. It's for the greater good. Probably Cal Ripken Jr.
Yeah.
I actually got his autograph, funny enough, on a baseball for my mum. Funny enough, another really quick story with that.
That's all right.
So my mum had they had these commemorated baseballs for the 2,131th game he played in consecutively, for guys that don't know, which broke the record there. And they had orange stitching on them, and they had a little logo on there. And my mum said to me, because I was a little kid at the time, quite impressionable, said, "If you get this ball signed for me, I'll buy you a foot-long hot dog." That was the payment at the Sky Dome there, and he ended up signing it. So that's probably worth quite a lot of money. Again, wouldn't sell it.
No, of course.
Just a really, really nice guy, and probably probably be Cal Ripken, to be honest.
Yeah, very good. Your favourite ballpark away from Rogers Centre / Sky Dome?
Kansas City. I've been there.
Okay. A lot of people say that's Kaufman, isn't it? Yeah.
Kauffman Stadium. So
Kaufman's, yeah.
So we went there. I've been to Seattle, Oakland, Anaheim, and a few other ones there. But we used to go to what used to be known as Comiskey Park, which the White Sox play as well.
Yes, sir.
Which for you foodies out there, they're the best hot dogs in the world.
I've walked past it. We went to Chicago when it was out of season, so we went past there, and when it was Wrigley as well. But okay, your favourite baseball food?
Probably a hot dog, to be honest. It's got to be, hasn't it? That's the classic.
It is the classic. Yeah, it is the classic. Your favourite drink at a ball game?
Steam whistle.
Yeah. Across the road. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Day or night game?
Night game. You got to be under the lights.
Yeah. You've sort of touched on this. Your favourite Jays jersey colour. So I think I'm going to have a stab at what I think that might be now. I think you're going to go for your grey, aren't you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. I thought you might do. Your best baseball jersey number?
It would be 18. Only because that's my anniversary date.
Okay. Yes.
So there would be that. So I can't forget it, obviously. We're obviously 32 for Roy Halladay, or when I was growing up, 37 for Dave Steve and Tim Crabtree.
Okay. But 18 it would be now. That's a very nice
18 it would be now, yeah.
Yeah, good man. Well done. And last one, roof open or roof closed?
Open. Every day. Snow, rain, hail, tornado, whatever.
Yeah.
Got to be open.
Did you ever get to Exhibition Stadium at all?
I did, but I didn't get there for a game. It was for something else. It was actually
Right.
during the Canadian National Exhibition.
Oh yeah,
Really random stadium.
it was a bit.
It was, yeah, a bit weird. There was a monster truck thing there during the exhibition,
Right.
and he had the outfield wall still up, and half the football field,
Yeah.
which seemed to go on forever, and somewhere in Spadina in Toronto, I think. But there we go.
Yeah.
It's just
Brilliant.
incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Some amazing memories, Gary. I mean, so good just to hear you chatting about those. Thank you so much for spending the time. I'm sure those listening in will have really enjoyed hearing some of those, particularly those earlier memories, because we've got a lot of Jays fans here in the UK that perhaps have joined, since the sort of 2015 era. But to hear some of some more historic stuff was fantastic. So thank you so much for spending the time to chat to us. Now, in terms of social media, are you just on Facebook or are you on Twitter as well?
Only on Facebook. To be honest, I don't really do social media.
Okay.
A, because I don't have the time, and B, with my job, I can get abuse. So I'd rather be a bit anonymous.
That's all right. That's fine.
No,
absolutely. Go below the radar. That's exactly that. That's not a problem at all, sir. But thank you so much for your time today, and really look forward to hearing further stories. We must book in episode 2. I think you've probably got a lot more to give to us. And I just want to sort of finish off by saying, if there's anybody listening in and you just think, actually, I'd love to share my story in the same way that Gary has done, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find me at Blue Jays Fans UK on Twitter, also on Instagram, and I'm within the Blue Jays Fans UK Facebook group as well. My name's Steve. Thank you so much for listening, and we will speak to you again soon. Take care now.
The Red, White, and Blue Jays podcast is a production of Blue Jays Fans UK. If you've got a Blue Jays story to share, let us know. Email us at bluejaysfansuk@gmail.com. And follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Blue Jays Fans UK. I'm your announcer, Jim Langton. Thanks for listening.